So, big surprise then.
Yes.
They actually passed your shareholders resolution.
Yes, yes.
What happened?
We're here in St. Louis with Alexis of Mayor from Organic Consumers Association that helped organize this amazing rally right outside of Monsanto. And I'm Zen Honeycutt from Moms Across America, and Harrington Investment Group gave me the opportunity to speak as proxy on behalf of their referendum, which means that I went and spoke in place of a shareholder or share owner, and the proxy was for shareholders to be able to vote on having on members on the board. So either, like for instance, a farmer or a pediatrician would be wonderful to have on the board of Monsanto, considering they are an agricultural sustainable company, right? Feeding the world, right? Wouldn't it be wonderful to have a farmer or a pediatrician on their board? So it was fantastic. It actually passed. 53% voted yes. And I had the opportunity to get up and speak for 3 minutes, and it was amazing. I got to present all the reasons why how their products are impacting children and our American citizens, and all of the different statistics. And what I wanted to show them was that I'm not just an angry mom. I am an informed citizen. And we had a binder of scientific studies. We had a binder of testimonials that we've gathered, and you know, I'm speaking on behalf of the millions of mothers and parents and people who are experiencing health issues in America today. And so it was an extremely exciting and important opportunity. And then I didn't realize that in the question and answer part afterwards, you can actually speak for 3 minutes. So I didn't realize, I thought you should just ask the question and would have to sit down, but you could actually say something for 3 minutes. So I got up 3 times. I just kept getting back in the line.
Good job.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
It was great.
So, yeah, I'm sure there was not a dry eye in the room if they're human beings who live and breathe.
There actually were farmers that got up and were shaking and practically crying. Because they were so upset. They felt like what I was saying was attacking their farming. And one was in particular a wheat growers association director of the Wheat Growers Association in Texas. And he said, I assure you, we are not spraying wheat with Roundup as a drying agent. And he was very passionate about that. Now, that's great, and that's not what I hear from out in the world of farmers. I also have seen journals that actually suggest that farmers spray legumes and peas and beans as a drying agent. And so, when I did address that to Hugh Grant, to the CEO, and I asked him about the process of spraying as a drying agent, and I said, you know, considering the prevalence of Roundup in our breast milk and water and Fruit Loops, thank you GMO for USA for finding that, and our feeding tube liquid, would you at least consider advising farmers to stop spraying it as a drying agent? You know, and then we can take steps with the GMOs that are engineered to withstand it, you know, in a process. And he said, well, it's advised to be sprayed to reduce weeds. I said, so does that mean you're not advising it to be sprayed as a drying agent? He said, well, in the legal terms, we've answered the question. So he wouldn't say that they don't advise it to be sprayed as a drying agent, and he wouldn't say that they do, right?
Yeah.
He's very careful
Well,
about that.
we know that they do because Monsanto's marketing materials for Roundup expressly describe how to use it as a drying agent on all the crops that you just mentioned. So, yeah. Wow. God, they're tough.
It was amazing. But what I think a good thing to look at about that is that this wheat farmer was expressly saying we don't spray it as a drying agent. So why would they not want to spray it as a drying agent, right? Why would he suddenly be defensive about that? Why would that be so wrong if it's completely safe? You know, at least he is denying, that it's in there. Which is the same thing with Abbott, which has told somebody that we do not have glyphosate in our Pediasure feeding tube liquid. Yeah. So, well, at least they're not saying yes, it's in there and it's safe, right? They're saying no, it's not in there. They're denying it, even though we know it is.
Yeah, so they know they've done something wrong.
Yeah. So, but it was amazing because after when the proxy passed, there were people behind me that patted my shoulder and said, "Good job," and smiled. And when I got up afterwards and went to the bathroom, there was a woman in the bathroom who said, "Great job, thank you for your courage. There were lots of us behind you." And I cried. I just started crying. I couldn't help it. I was like,
it's very emotional.
This is people want this to be said, and they want somebody to stand up and say, well, you know, when he said that there's 40 years of safety studies, you know, showing proof, you know, that this is safe, and I said, well, they said the same thing about DDT and PCBs.
And cigarettes and tobacco.
Right. Yeah. So I went there, you know, I said it, and I'm really glad I did. And, you know, I don't know if they'll start changing direction right now, but I guarantee that every single person in that room, that they have a new perspective, if they didn't have this already before, about Monsanto's products, and they are questioning it. They are definitely questioning it because, you know, I went there with how glyphosate, I brought up the studies because he kept mentioning these studies. So I got up again to address the studies, and by then some people were chuckling. They're like, oh, there she goes again, right? And one of the studies shows that oysters were closed and not feeding after only 4 days of very minimal exposure to glyphosate. And so I asked, what happened on the 5th day? And what is closed and not feeding? That's likely to, I mean, that's akin to a coma.
Yeah.
You know? And then in addition, what about the white shrimp that died at 3.9 parts per billion after 4 days of exposure to glyphosate? And what about how glyphosate is not as biodegradable as the company once thought it was? There's a new recent study that showed that glyphosate actually remains viable in salty, dark water, salt dark water, for 351 days. Well, what's in our womb? Dark salt water. And how big are fetuses? The size of a shrimp. So we must take this into consideration with the widespread usage of Roundup. What is it doing? Is it responsible for the 30% increase, I mean, for the current rate of 30% of infertility, sterility, miscarriages, and birth defects? And it directly correlates with the pig study that showed exposed to glyphosate, 30% increase of miscarriages, no exposure to glyphosate, down to 3%. And back up to 30%. So I got to address all that.
That's amazing.
And thank you for planning this rally, because the supportive people outside and all the doctors and everyone speaking, and it really would have been a whole different feeling for me if I'd gone in there, you know, like alone, you know, and not felt supported. So that was really
well, it also would have been different to just be standing outside of Monsanto talking and carrying signs and showing pictures and not have any interaction with the company. So it's fantastic that you were able to carry the message into the company and make everybody listen. It's wonderful. I think it's going to have a huge, I mean, it already had a huge impact because your resolution won.
Yes.
But yeah, you've changed the direction of the company for sure. We'll see how it goes.
I sure hope so. There was a woman that got up and said, you know, I'm a doctor, I review these studies, I attest that they're completely safe and all of that. And so in the end, I was able to give her the binder of studies and the testimonials. And so she did say she would review them, and you know, we'll see. And you know, and the proxy itself, it was an advisory proxy, it's not a compulsory one. So it was very smart. Lisa from Some of Us got up and asked, will you actually pass, you know, will you actually implement the proxy? And Hugh Grant got a little uncomfortable, and he was like, well, I'm sure by next year when you come back here, we will have made some modifications. So, but it was very good for her to ask in front of the entire shareholders meeting, does their majority rule count?
Yeah.
Right? Are you going to actually implement what we just voted on? 53% of us want it passed. Are you going to implement that? And so we'll see if they do, and listen to their shareholders. Thank you, everybody. It's very exciting. Thank you, John Harrington, for the opportunity to speak on behalf of mothers everywhere. And thank you, everybody, for your testimonials. And thank you to all the scientists that are doing this work, the real work for real science, and risking your jobs and risking your livelihood, right?
And lives sometimes.
And lives. You are such heroes for all of us. I can't thank the scientists enough. You know who they are. And the farmers, and the researchers, and the lawyers, and the mothers, and the teachers, and you know, everybody. Thank you so much.